Well, welcome. And in this presentation, I will briefly review Chapter 2, Teaching Children in the PE Environment. Be sure you read Chapter 2 in addition to listening to the presentation, as I will not cover all the information in the chapter, but quickly highlight some important areas. And Chapter 2 begins with a review of the 8 components of a quality PE program. We will review these throughout the course, so I will not spend time on these right now. I do want you to understand the basic growth patterns of a child. A child's growth and development is determined by genetics. Now, many educators have argued that this can be changed and sped up by exposing kids to different types of activities as early as possible, but this is not true. Although there is basically a general pattern of growth, the timing of development differs for individual children, and growth can be affected by a child's environment. For example, children born into a low socioeconomic status household tends not to have access to quality health care, quality nutrition, and quality education. Now, all of these will affect the growth and development of a child overall. Also, a mother's behavior during pregnancy will affect a child's growth and development as well. Whether the mother drank, smoked, or engaged in other risky behaviors will have a huge impact on child development. And when we're teaching kids, especially those in preschool and kindergarten, and first grade, exposing them to PE activities through free play is probably the best idea. And this is because children grow and develop very rapidly from birth to about age 5. And when this happens, it's difficult for a child to learn and acquire new skills. It's best to wait until this rapid growth slows before trying to teach specific motor skills. And this generally occurs between age 6 and adolescence. And this is why during the elementary school years, it's important to expose them to a variety of activities and spend time teaching those basic motor skills. And it's important to be aware that also during this time, boys are generally taller and heavier, and this means that skills and activities need to be designed with gender variations in mind. We know that towards the middle school years, the girls will quickly mature, and many of them begin to outperform boys in the same age. And I mentioned that environmental factors can affect growth and development of a child. Well, obesity can also affect the ability to learn skills in both boys and girls. However, the increased rate of obesity has led to an earlier onset of puberty in girls, and this is another overlooked issue with obesity. Now, for the most part, we can observe students' physiques and determine the types of activities they may be better at performing. We can also use this information to understand motor performance as well. Now, there are 3 different types of body physiques. There's the mesomorph, which is identified by a predominance of muscle. And so we look at those students and we know that they're going to do well, or we assume that they're going to do well in a variety of activities, both muscle type activities, fitness type activities, overall students as well. There's the endomorph, which is identified as being soft and round, basically in excess of body fat or a high BMI. And so these students are a little bit heavier, and so we need to modify activities for those. And then we have the ectomorph, which is a student identified as being thin with minimal muscle. And we know that these students are going to struggle in a lot of activities that require a lot of muscle strength and endurance. Now, although we can determine what students are capable of doing based on a visual observation of their physiques, muscle strength and development plays an important role in learning the new skill as well. Now, there is a difference between skeletal maturity and chronological maturity, which is about 5 to 6 years in a classroom. So we can say that within a classroom, there's a variation of skeletal maturity of about 5 to 6 years. Now, skeletal maturity is basically when the bones stop growing or significantly slow down. And this is how physical maturity is measured, comparing a student's chronological age with skeletal age. Generally, lower body strength is no different between boys and girls, but boys do develop upper body strength a lot sooner than girls do. Also, in understanding muscle fiber types, it's important that we design activities that take into account each muscle fiber type. Now, muscle fibers are genetically determined. Some teachers believe that by promoting a certain type of activity, we can modify or change the type of muscle fibers a student has. This is not completely research supported. And the 2 types of muscle fibers are slow twitch and fast twitch. And for the most part, students with slow twitch muscle fibers do well with distance running and activities that don't require much speed. On the other hand, students with fast twitch muscle fibers do well in speed and agility type activities. However, it is surprising to note that elementary age children who do best in fast twitch muscle fiber type activities also do well in distance running. Strength is also an important factor in the learning and performance of motor skills. Basically, the stronger children are, the better they will be at motor skills. So it's important to help students develop muscle strength. On the other hand, dead weight, or those students with a high BMI or with a predominance of body fat, will have difficulty in developing motor skills as well as difficulty in strength type activities. And with difficulty in learning new skills, there's also the difficulty in developing cardiovascular endurance. Now, many teachers are encouraging their students at younger and younger ages to engage in vigorous cardiovascular type activities. Maximal aerobic power, or MAP, also known as VO2 max, which is the maximal rate at which oxygen can be taken in, distributed, and used by the body during physical activity, or simply the ability to use oxygen, is a focus of many teachers. Unfortunately, training students in these type of activities at an early age does not increase aerobic power and does not change a student's cardiovascular endurance. The best types of activities are circuit training or interval type training activities. It's also important to expose students to as many activities and design them in a way in which students will experience success. We should help students in this learning process and not just give them expectations or demands. When students have difficulty in activities, Hall of Shame type games, for example, they begin to question their own learning ability. This affects their perceived competence, which is how they feel about their own ability in learning. If poor or no learning continues, students develop what's considered learn helplessness, and this is when they begin to see no value in PE or begin to dislike PE. Usually around the middle school grades or early high school, students start to drop out of PE and drop out of physical activity altogether. So it's important that we focus on intrinsic benefits of physical activity and help students learn why PE is important and what it can do for them. And there is still this perception that PE prepares students for a life of sports and success in those sports. Now, research shows that elementary performance is not an indicator of future performance and cannot predict sports success. We need to treat and teach all students as if they have the potential to succeed and allow them to learn and experience different sport-related skills. Allow children to participate in moderate exercise activities and not expect every student to become an athlete. For example, if students run the pacer instead of the mile, it's less intimidating and it helps prevent burnout. And the pacer is a natural substitute for the mile run, and it's more fun for students as well. Well, that's it for this presentation of Chapter 2. Remember that this does not substitute for reading the material on your own. You're still accountable for that. So take a look at both the text as well as this presentation, and by doing that, they can help you prepare for the test as well. So take care.